And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome in to RBLR Bandits here at RBLR Sports. We are riding high after a Bandits dub, and to celebrate and talk about all of that with me, of course, is my main man, Zachary Blaine. What's good, my guy?
What is going on, brother?
Man, dubs, that's what I'm talking about. We're winning, baby.
Yes, sir.
So
feels good.
You know what? We've been up and down this year, but this week was a win as your Bandits, listeners, your Bandits, pull out a 27-20 victory against the Michigan Panthers. Those, they were ranked 7th in our power rankings. You know what I'm saying? That's a top 10 team, huh? Top 10 team, huh?
Definitely, 100%, without a doubt.
Well, all jokes aside, both of us did think this was going to be a win. I thought it was going to be a 5-point victory. 17-12 was my weird score. Zach, you had 17-6. You thought it was going to be a double-digit win. But was it surprising to see the Bandits only win by one score against Michigan?
I wouldn't say it was surprising at this point. I was surprised with how close it was against a team that I completely expected us to kind of blow out of the water. Yeah,
I think we both we're just waiting for this this moment because we had very high expectations. Let's say that it is the halfway point in the season, and I don't want to go into any really super big picture things, but halfway through, I mean, we kind of thought we were going to be one of the top teams in the league, kind of where Birmingham and New Orleans have been sitting all year. We kind of thought that's where we were going to be, and they really just haven't been that. I thought this was a good opportunity for them to get right and do things right, and we'll get into. They did some good, they did some bad, but overall, though, I think we're still just waiting for that final little button to push.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel like certain things are starting to click, and I think once everything clicks, we're going to be exactly what we expected us to be in the beginning.
At this point, I'm just kind of like, we've waited, and it kind of just hasn't shown up in a month. So at first you were like, the excuses were, training camp, okay, need to gel, okay. At this point, things are turning in the right direction, but they're still not near kind of the tippy top of our expectations that we had. So at this moment, I'm still saying we'll wait and see, but they are trending in the right direction. So this game was pretty weird to begin with. It started out being a battle of trick plays, and both defenses were just shutting down each other's offense, especially our defense was just the front seven were suffocating and creating tons of pressure. So let's get into that, Zach. I know you're a big defensive guy. Let's talk about the defense. What good things do you want to talk about first about our defense?
Good things. We stuffed the run like we do most weeks. I think we've had 1 week, and obviously we're not doing a full season recap yet, but I think so far we've had 1 week where we allowed over 100 yards. It was a ridiculous rusher. So we've continually stopped the run, and I think that a big part of that is Christian Sam and our front seven. In all, they're just between Reeves and Sam. We've got, I think, some of the best dogs in the front seven out of the league. In all honesty,
absolutely. The Michigan Panthers leading rusher outside. Well, it was Shea Patterson, 8 attempts, 46 yards, but outside of the quarterback, it was Corbin who had 12 attempts for 28 yards. That's 2.3 yards per carry. We will take that all day. We will take that every day.
Exactly.
And like you said, Christian Sam, consistent pressure. He had 6 solo tackles, 1 for loss, and he even helped out in the pass game. Greg Reeves, 2 sacks on the day, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass deflection. So you're just talking about these are linebackers getting into the backfield, whether it's a pass play or a run play. I mean, just phenomenal, great. To be honest with you, if we go big picture, it was a great defensive effort all game that they kept it manageable the whole time. And I want to get your opinion on this because it took it took Shea Patterson's best performance ever as a professional. Let's not mince words. Shea Patterson was on fire this game for
Yeah.
Michigan. He absolutely came to play. Shea Patterson for all. I mean, I think we were even kind of looking down on him last week, and if we gave him a lot of criticism, he shut us up. He was 23 for 37, 304 yards, and all of that praise and accolade still wasn't enough to get it done against this defense.
Yeah, the defense continues to keep us in games even when allowing absurd numbers. Shea Patterson has, I think, 304 yards was more than he had all season, if I'm not mistaken,
Had to be,
or
yeah, I think
close
so.
to it, at least close to it. Because, I mean, even with the QBR of 85.9, still he's coming out and he's throwing for 300 yards. Like Teamu hasn't thrown for 300 yards in a game, I don't believe.
Right.
So to see him come out of all people and throw for that amount of yards, it just is. It leaves that we're talking good stuff, but that's one of the very few bad things I have this week is about our defense. Was just, we'll get more into it later, but their inability to cover passes is, we'll get there. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm going to be positive this episode because, like I said, that front seven is insane.
Yeah, I wanted to definitely just point out, we've been saying bend but don't break, and that's what this defense has been doing for over the last 3-4 weeks now. Is that we're getting victories where even when I think you said it well, even when other teams are having 100-yard rushers and 300-yard passers, sometimes it's just not enough because if you give the other side of the ball even just a smidge, we've been able to pull out last-second victories and win one game.
Exactly.
And in this game, we took a fourth quarter lead and then held on to it. So one of the reasons I think we did well, because every little bit added up in this game. When you only win by one score, you have to start looking at, even though you had a 300-yard rush or a passer, did you get everything you could have out of that offensive performance?
Exactly, and that's where I agree with you on the bend and don't break, because at this point they look like a bunch of rubber bands. Like they'll bend all sorts of ways, but they're not going to snap. We're good. Like it seems like once our offense clicks, like we'll talk about offense later as well. But once our offense clicks, if our defense can stay the way that they are, we're gonna see multiple 30-point games, multiple double-digit point victories, because our defense is able to stop these other offenses and is able to keep us in the game even if we're losing or if we're ahead.
This is very quick too. I think one reason that they were able to do, in every little piece matters. We were able to shut down the red zone. If you look at it, out of the 3 attempts, 1 was a touchdown, 2 were field goals. And in a one point game or one possession game, you're looking at you left points on the board, and even though you were able to get into our territory, even though you were able to get that close, we were able to get it done, including a huge interception by Christian Sam as Michigan is driving at the Tampa Bay 15. Michigan is driving late in the third, down only 1 score. And we were able to create a turnover. We were able to get that over, coupled with 2 fumbles. So I just wanted to say we shut down the red zone and we created turnovers. And that was just a phenomenal effort. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about, the good things that our defense did in this game?
No, I think the big point that you touched on was the ability to force turnovers, to create turnovers, because that's been a less than effective point in our defense this season, which kind of surprised, I think, both of us with some of the names that we had on this team. But to see us finally being able to, I think we had an interception last week as well as this week. So it's kind of all getting put together. Like, okay, we're able to do this. So now we really only have one thing to fix, and that's not turnovers anymore,
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that you're alluding to is that The one thing that we need to fix maybe now is the passing attack, and that's that our defense maybe gave up too much in the air. And again, not to take away from Shea Patterson's like phenomenal performance, but well, I wanted you to maybe go ahead and dissect. What did you see in our passing attack that you didn't like this week?
I mean, it continues to be soft coverage because, soft coverage, and we're giving up. Just to go through some of the lists, some of the longest receptions. Lenore Jr. had a 41-yard reception. O'Malley had a 30-yard reception. Petway had a 25-yard. We had 6 players that had over 10-yard receptions as the longest receptions, and 5 of those were over 15 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just our defense is playing. Our defensive backs are playing too soft. They're giving up too much dink and dot passes, and we'll take 5 yards here, 6 yards there, and 5-yard catches. You only need 2 of those to get a first down. So go ahead.
No, I was gonna say if you keep them under 10, I think okay, cool. Like because if you're an offense that's only getting 6 yards, I mean at some point you're becoming one dimensional, and if your one dimension is a 6-yard pass, you're not gonna get that every time. And if a defense knows that's what you're going for, you're gonna shut that down. It is the 41-yarders, the 25-yarders that are just backbreakers, unfortunately. And even Devin Ross, he didn't get anything super long, but even him getting 68 yards on 5 catches, I mean that's well over 10 yards,
13.6 to be exact.
I'm with you on that.
It feels like, I mean, they had 4 players that were over 50 yards receiving. So that's to me that in the beginning, when we first started, when we first became a team and we were looking over it, I expected our pass defense to be phenomenal. Like that was some of our bigger names on the team were all in the defensive back room, so I was excited for it. But right now it seems to be, I don't know if it's, Pepper or if it's the team itself, what's going on with it, but that's our biggest issue. And that's honestly the only negative I have to say about the game on defense this week is just our defensive backs.
Yeah, I think the game plan was to limit Shea Patterson's option ability, and even then, I mean, they kept him under 50 yards, and they did try. I mean, 8 attempts, they did try. The bend and don't break. Teams have been able to kind of work against our soft zone. They've been able to open up some holes in that zone, especially on the sidelines, and it just kind of all worked in Michigan's favor, considering we had made them one-dimensional. Basically, we had shut down their running game completely, so they had to go to the air, and their quarterback was just on a good tear. Like, we pushed them into a corner that we wanted them to get to, and they just really did a good job in that corner. Maybe there's some injuries. I mean, we didn't have Antonio Reed, our starting safety, regardless of I don't want to jab him too hard, but in the how they have the starting lineup on the TV screen, they had Antonio Reed on the list as a starting safety, and I'm like, he's not even active in this game.
Exactly.
So I mean, that's more of a Fox Sports thing, but anyway, we didn't have our number one safety. We've had some issues and injuries with our cornerbacks, but again, I agree with you. This was definitely a weak spot because, hey, look, USFL isn't just next man up. It's like that's what this whole league is these are hopefully the guys who are going to be the next men in the NFL. So
exactly.
What are you going to do? But maybe to break this down just a little bit is that the passing defense was a big concern for me in the fourth quarter when it mattered the most. On a drive that ended up being a game-tying drive by Michigan, there were multiple third-down conversions, and we're talking 3rd and 3, 3rd and 7, and 3rd and 6 on the same drive that allowed Michigan to tie the game at 20 late in the fourth. And unfortunately, like, those are back-breaking third down conversions when you just need to punch that death blow. This is one thing that we said, or that we talked about last week, is that for some reason we just do not have the killer knockout punch. We do not have the ability to just take control in the fourth and just eliminate all of the scoring, if not all of the momentum, and just seal it. I mean, although we do have ability to come back, and we'll get into this as we talk about the offense, but although we do have the ability to come back and win, or essentially take the lead and then put the hammer down in this game, it just, on this one particular drive, it was still putting a little bit of doubt in my mind.
Yeah, and that's where my concern, like, trying not to speak on the offense too much yet. That is where my concern is, that, like, it feels like our defense is almost relying, and I say our defense, really I mean our defensive backs, because like I said, our front seven they're doing what they need to do. There's not much more they can do when you have Christian Sam, who's a linebacker, having 3 pass defense, the most on the team. Like, you can't. They're doing all they can do, but when our corners and our safeties are giving up big plays at big points in the game, it almost feels like they're relying too much on the offense, and an offense that hasn't been consistent enough for me to be like, oh, don't worry about it. We're tied with 5 minutes left. We're going to score here. It's not like watching Brady in the fourth quarter where they're down 7 points with 37 seconds left, and you're like, oh, we still have a shot. With this team, it's like, well, they've done it before. They might be able to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely get into the offense, because that ties into what we'll talk about in a minute. But the last thing I wanted to say, and this is kind of a weird thing, but we gave up a ton of all the trick plays, man. It was just a trick play battle in the first half. And I'm sitting here going, like, please no more. I even tweeted this out. I'm like, please no more. And then there was the very next play was a trick play. So I'm just like, we had flea flickers and wide receivers coming in. I mean, to be honest with you, that Ryan O'Malley 30-yard catch was a trick play. Yeah. He got that from a wide receiver that used to play quarterback wherever the hell. And Ryan O'Malley was wide open for that 30-yard touchdown. So, maybe take that one away from the secondary, but at the same time, it's like we were telling our team last week, or at least I was saying, like, no more cute plays. Like, can we stop with these stupid end arounds and dooba-dooba-doos and annexation of Puerto Ricos and stuff and whatever. And then for all that crap that I talked, for all of that stuff that I said, here we are, and that was literally the first half. It was the only offense that these offenses were able to generate was through trickery and fumble rooskies or whatever. And it's just like, it was bad.
And the difference is, in this league, I kind of would expect Pepper Johnson to be teaching our defense what to look for in those, because with all the rules, the 2 passes behind the line, they can still go forward, like whatever, all these, niche rules that they're putting in to make it more exciting. You would think that defenses should be learning this. Whereas last week we did say, you know what, look, Teamu, our offense, listen, no more. We don't need it. We can't even, but our defense, I feel like that should be taught, if you can pass the ball twice before going over the line of scrimmage, you know what? Maybe keep your defensive backs back. It's just, to me, it doesn't make any sense.
And look, again, I want to give kudos to Jeff Fisher for, I love the innovation. I hate that it happened against us, but I do love if a league is going to start putting out these rules, use them. Okay, cool. All right, Todd Haley, you're supposed to be this offensive guru. Like, where's my JF3 gets the ball at the sideline and then chucks it 60 yards downfield to a dude,
Exactly.
Like, we got guys that can throw. So, I mean, like, there are trick plays, and if you're gonna run these stupid trick plays that I'm gonna hate, if they're gonna turn into good things, at least let's get that going. So, Well, let's flip the script. Let's go on the other side of the ball. Let's talk about the offense. Do you want to talk about the good or the bad things first about our offense?
I feel like we have far less bad things to talk about than we do good, so we might want to start off with that so we can just get right into the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, let's eat our vegetables before we get our dessert. Let's talk about the bad. The offense just couldn't get it clicking until late in this game. Again, there was only 13 points at halftime, and we were still waiting for that breakthrough that I mentioned in the beginning of the program. Like, we're just waiting and waiting and waiting for this offense to become the high-powered, octane, just offense that we think that this could be, and it didn't happen until late in the game. What were you thinking, 2 or 3 quarters into this game before we finally turned on the Jets?
Yeah, it felt like another slow start. And it almost, in the beginning of the game, it felt like, here we go again. It felt like nothing was going right on offense, it seemed like. We had Talmu with an average of 8.6 yards a play, a pass attempt, I should say. And not even just the passing, the running game. Washington did have 2 touchdowns, but he had 14 attempts for 48 yards. Yeah. One of those attempts was a 30-yard touchdown. So in 13 other rushes, he only had 18 yards. So you start looking at that, and it's like, we've got to get the run game going, because if our run game's not going, then our passing game is never going to get better.
100% agree with you on that. The other big thing I wanted to talk about is like kind of what you had alluded to earlier, is that the defense was relying on the offense to kind of get us through this one, where this season has been proven that it's the defense that is carrying the water for this team, and really this offense just need to do just enough to pull out a victory, and unfortunately, like, this was not a dominant performance by our offense. We were giving, and we'll hand some flowers out, but for all the talk about Jordan Ta'amu as player of the week or whatever, and I'm just like, man, I mean, he did enough to win. But if not for this defense, if not for this really good defensive effort, this might not have been enough of an offensive effort to win against, like, let's be honest, they're the Michigan Panthers. They're the 7th out of 8th team in this league.
Yeah.
And if we're going to play New Orleans or Birmingham or whatever, like, if we're going to make it, we're going to have to put up better numbers on offense. And so, again, we lost the time of possession 24 to 35 minutes. And if this offense isn't going to score 35 points a game, they have to keep drives alive to at least rest our defense and choke out our opponent's ability to score points. What did you see? Like, again, this was maybe just some overall thoughts about what didn't work well, that why, if we weren't dominant, the defense drug us along to another victory, but what do you think this offense can do to kind of turn it around, maybe?
I mean, I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, but to turn it around, our line is going to have to get better at run blocking. We're going to have to have a running back who can, I don't expect a 100-yard rusher every game, but I expect 60 to 80 yards a game. Like, that's in a league where all of these guys are kind of backups to backups in the higher levels. I kind of expect someone to stand out, and neither one of our running backs are standing out. Our offensive line seems like they can't run block. It just is something that if we're going to get better as a whole offense, it really only seems like there's one spot that's not able to perform, which is hindering the other spots, and that's the running back.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. Look, offensive linemen seem to be at a premium even at the NFL level, and I don't know who is out there that's not in the talent pool of the USFL. Like, this is a bigger picture problem, that now that we're going to have the XFL coming out in a year, depending on where they do their timetable of where their season runs in conjunction with the USFL. I don't think there's enough offensive line talent to make a 3 different football leagues.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
like at the very highest level. And so that's, I think, where the battles are going to be fought for, like, getting the best talent. Now, hopefully, there's enough young talent coming out that'll be able, like guys who weren't drafted by the NFL in this very last draft that we had. Hopefully, we see some of these guys trickling into the USFL that are not undrafted free agents. They weren't drafted by guys. But, there's got to be diamonds in the rough. I mean, you'd hope so. That's what this league is predicated on, is finding guys that were thrown away from the NFL, but showing like, no, we can still play. Maybe I just haven't gotten my shot yet. So I'm really hoping, I'm trying to turn this negative into a positive. I'm hoping that there is more offensive line talent out there that either hasn't wanted to be in the USFL, or they're waiting for see what the Rock and the XFL are going to do, or maybe they're still hoping and praying that they can get into a training camp. But if this league survives into year 2, I hope that is a area of emphasis that they improve upon, because the Bandits aren't the only team looking for good offensive line. I mean, it's just there's 8 teams out there looking for a better offensive lineman. So, and we'll get into one of ours that we had that was doing well and then got injured, because that's a reality in this league, is that you're one injury away from losing a top level talent.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
maybe not having a quote unquote next man up, because guys that are at a premium, or guys that are good, are going to be at a premium in this league for the standouts. So, yeah, I said all that, but what I wanted to do is let's flip the script. Let's go to the good stuff. Okay, let's hand out some flowers, baby. Because you know what, Zach, we won this game, and we won the game because we scored more points than the other team, buddy. That's the kind of deep insight that I know you look for in this podcast. So, scoring those points, starting off, man, let's talk about the quarterback, Jordan Ta'amu. Jordan Ta'amu had a good game. Not a great game, not an amazing game. He had a good game. 15 to 24, that's 62.5%, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a big fat 0 interceptions. Let's go. Let's talk about Jordan Ta'amu. What do you want to talk about first?
Big thing, no turnovers. We've been having a little bit of a turnover bug here lately. Really all season. I think there's been one other game where he hasn't thrown at least 1 pick. So that's huge. And then I think his QBR is a little higher than it should be, but at a 117.9, he got the job done. Nothing crazy, nothing bad, nothing great, but just very good.
Yeah, man, look, my guy, the throwing Samoan, spread the ball out to 8 different receivers, 0 turnovers, and I love it. He wasn't rushing out of the pocket to extend plays and inevitably throw bad balls. Like, I thought this was a solid effort. I mean, but again, I think it's the effort that builds to what we think he should be. Like, I don't think he's not the quarterback we all thought he was going to be coming into this. But this is the kind of game that shows me that you could do it. Like, it's still in there, baby. Like, we just got to switch that flip one more time. Turn that knob all the way to 11. But even on the ground, when he did have to rush, he ended up with 27 yards on the ground. He is more of a mobile threat than that, but he really pulled that out in terms of, like, when he needed to pull that out. It wasn't a stupid draw play or an end around or a flea flicker or a whatever. Like these were all hard-fought yards, and even the deep ball was good, man. He launched the ball deep to JF3 coming out of halftime, and, man, when they hit that 40-plus yard JF3 touchdown, woo, buddy, I was like, uh-oh. Because when it's almost like when they wake up, when they somehow get to where we think they can get to, if that's a reality, we have a problem. Because, oh my God, like that, if this offense can turn this around for the next 5 games, let's go. And it all starts with Jordan Ta'amu. But was there anything else you wanted to talk about the throwing Samoan before we move on?
Yeah, I was going to talk about this more in the wide receiver group, but you touched on it. The deep ball, we had 4 different receivers with 20-plus yard catches.
Yeah.
So that's huge. That's
Lay
nice.
him on me. Lay him on me.
It's nice to see.
Talk
So we
about the
had
wide receivers. Let's go.
we had JF3 with a 43-yard touchdown.
Yep.
We had Dylan with a 50-yard catch. O'Grady had a 22-yard catch, and your man Vinny Papale had a 20-yard catch. Granted, I will say Papale had his longest catch was 20 yards. He finished with 18 yards. But that's kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme of things because we did have those those 4 receivers with 20+ yard catches, which is something that we've kind of needed and kind of missed because Ta'amu's been missing a lot of deep throws.
Yeah, with Vinny, they were trying to do some dumb trick play stuff.
Yeah,
with Vinny Papale, and I'm just like he lost a bunch of yards on a stupid screenplay and all that stuff. But JF3, John Franklin III, say the whole thing, baby. He had his best game. His best game as a Bandit, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the statistics of another game were better, but for me, nine targets. He got 5 receptions for 81 yards, and one of them was that 43-yard bomb. But the other 40 yards that he racked up were just as influential. So, he scored the touchdown. But at that point, though, that's the kind of stuff we need because if you know that JF3 is a threat to get the long ball, it just opens up so much more for everyone else. Like, we didn't have to rely on O'Grady, right? We didn't have to rely on the dink and the dunk and the whatever. It opened up because we launched a bomb. But I think the wide receivers did a solid job in this game. I mean, again, let's temper expectations. It wasn't amazing, but it was good. Good is the word, right?
Yeah.
So this was a good effort all the way around. From the wide receivers, so phenomenal way to wrap that up. But the run game, I don't want to say was amazing. Okay, we talked about it. We couldn't really get things going on the run, and that really bogged things up for time of possession and things like that to help out a little other facets of the game. However, let's give our flowers to Juwan Washington, who the way I'm going to put it is he got things done when it counted, okay? Yeah, he had 48 yards, and yes, 30 of those were on one play, but
that one play was beautiful.
I talked about like how this red zone defense was so stifling, right? Okay, well, we turned around, and on a goal line situation, we ran power right. And O'Grady, man, I don't know if you go back and look at the highlights. The offensive line did their job. They pushed the pile back. Cheyenne O'Grady's coming across the line just with an amazing block, opens up a hole, and the first touchdown that Juwan Washington has is goal line power right, and let's go, right? It's still early in the game. However, that 30-yard touchdown that he had was a dagger.
Mm-hmm.
It was a breakaway to the outside through 2 defenders who end up getting a little bit of friendly fire on themselves, but through 2 defenders, he turns on the afterburners, he gets down the sideline, and with less than 4 minutes left, Juwan Washington has a rushing touchdown to put your Bandits up for good late in the 4th, and that's why I'm saying, like, great, he didn't run for 100 yards, but he had the right play at the right time, and it got us the dub in the end. So, Juwan Washington, here are your flowers from me. Here we go, baby. Anything good you want to say about Mr. Washington? Big play Washington in the building.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been very high on Washington since the beginning. The 2 guys on offense that I've been the highest on since the beginning were JF3 and Washington. JF3 mostly because of the potential he has, and Washington because that's the kind of running back I enjoy to watch. Someone that can get out to the outside and just turn on the afterburners. And on that 30-yard play, that is exactly what I envisioned. Once he got to the sideline, he outran. I don't know if it was a safety or a corner. I don't remember who it was, but he just turned on the Jets and outran one of their defensive backs. Exactly. Love the sound effects because in my head, that's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching it live. I swear to God, I was like, this is what I want to see. I think we need more of that, and I think that he's our guy. I know that Emmons is coming back, I believe, next week. We'll get into the injuries later, but so I think that this was a game, where Washington may have kind of put his hand firmly on that first running back spot.
Yeah, well, again, I think Emmons is still going to be your lead rusher if he's healthy, but he's more of the blunt object that you beat the defense with, and then Washington is that change of pace, speedy guy, and unfortunately, he got to the outside, and like there go that man again. Do not let Juwan Washington get to the outside. It's over at that point, and it was the final nail. But then let's give flowers also to the offensive line, man. They kept the shirt clean. There was 1 sack in this game. Yeah, the running game didn't, but then again, it just wasn't built that way. We weren't built to be a giant power running team in this game. But you and I both have talked a lot of smack about this O-line, even in this show tonight, about like they need to upgrade, they need to do better.
Exactly.
They gave up 1 sack. Part of that's Tamu getting out of the pocket and being mobile and whatever, but at the end of the day, every little bit mattered, and having 1 sack for this offensive line mattered.
Yeah, no, that's huge for our offensive line. And I was going to actually touch on that as well, because I was going to say, after all the crap we gave them, they did give up only 1 sack. And not only that, but you even said it earlier when we were talking about Tamu, is that he didn't have to get out of the pocket as much this game. He didn't have to, try and make something happen with his feet as much this game, which was huge. But now I got a question for you.
Oh no.
No, it's not a bad question, I promise. So with our offensive line being much better at pass protection than we are at run protection,
okay,
wouldn't it make more sense to have a running back like Washington be our lead guy?
I would love it if we can.
You know what I mean?
If we can, especially get him out of the backfield on screenplays and wheel routes and things like that. We've seen some success from that happening.
Yeah,
I'm with it. Look, this whatever makes this offense more dynamic, I'm all for.
yeah.
And it's just, unfortunately, or whatever, the reality of this league is that we're going to have to score 30 points a game to win the championship. And that's just, we've seen, like, when we go against the top level teams, you're like, unfortunately, this is what you got to do. You got to put 4 or 5 touchdowns on the board. Otherwise, because they're going to do that. The Breakers are going to score more than 21 points. The Birmingham Stallions are probably going to score more than 21 points later on in this year. And if you're going to get there, that's what you're going to have to do. So
yeah,
what we have a good defense to keep teams under 20 points, but I mean, really, thinking about it from that perspective, if this defense gives up less than 20 points, it's a victory, and if the offense scores more than 20 points, we will win every game that we play, and that's just the truth. And here we go, we scored 27. We needed at least 21 to win, and that's exactly what we needed, and I believe that that's the recipe for the rest of this. So if it's Juwan Washington or BJ Emmons or whoever, or you or I signing up and moving to Birmingham to get passes out of the backfield,
I mean, I'm pretty close to there now.
I don't want to say if we can't run the ball, I am more for passing the ball more. Okay, I am for that. It isn't a trick play offense though that I'm looking for. And we'll get into this when we talk about our score predictions and what we need keys to winning the game. But in this game, that's what it took. It took us passing the ball because we didn't have a BJ Emmons. Juwan Washington got it done in the 2 amazing things he did were 14 points on the board, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's you could spin it however you want, but guess what? Points on the board is all that matters. So here we go. And if that's the recipe for the rest of the year, at least we've seen that Juwan Washington is going to be a guy who can score the ball, whether we're giving it to him on a goal line or if we're giving it to him trying to break him out to the outside. So let's go. I don't know. I'm pumped. I'm like, I love it. If we could, you said it best. If we can just get this running game going, I think it unlocks so much for our offense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that, like I said, that's why that's my only negative point on the offense this week is that if we can get the run game going, we will be a potent offense.
Well, another thing, another little bit of potency I want to add to your wardrobe is a t-shirt from shop.rblrsports.com. If you go there, we have t-shirts celebrating and inspired by all of the Tampa Bay teams here. We have shirts inspired by our Rowdies and our Rays and our Bucks and our Lightning and, of course, your Tampa Bay Bandits. All you got to do is there's a link in the description. Go to shop.rblrsports.com, and if you use the promo code BANDITBALL, BANDITBALL, my friend, you are going to get 10% off of your order. So let's move in quickly through roster updates. One thing I do want to take one step back is to say Bruno Reagan has been injured for the last couple of weeks. He is officially done for the season, tweeting that he is going home after his knee injury has been deemed a season-ending injury. So Bruno Reagan, my guy, I know you're going to rip some guy's arm off as you do BJJ and all that stuff, man. You are a tough dude. We appreciate all of your hard work, and we were rooting for you to get that one last chance in the NFL. And maybe you come back stronger with this knee, but for now, I want to say thank you, and thank you for everything and all the entertaining things that you've done on Twitter and to make our lives better as Bandit fans. Bruno Reagan, unfortunately, done for the season, man. Zach, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, he was one of my favorite linemen on the team, aside from obviously Lalina because he went to Oregon State. Had to get it in there. But it is sad to see. He was one of those guys that I remember messaging you in the group chat and being like, he is one of the most badass football players that you would not guess was a football player. Like, if you saw him on the streets, you would not be like, oh, that guy plays football. It was just enjoyable to watch someone that you almost kind of relate with. You're like, okay, I could see hanging out with this guy. And it's sad. It's sad for sure.
Well, and the USFL, I think, unfortunately, hasn't been able to latch on to these personalities, because I know there's another league coming up in a year, and they're going to do that. They're going to latch on to these personalities like a Bruno Reagan, that maybe football isn't his number one thing he's going to do in his life. Maybe Bruno Reagan goes on to achieve greatness in so many other fields that he has dipped his toes into. But for the 10 weeks that he's on a football field, you're gonna get the features and the backstage stuff and the whatever. Like, he is a personality that unfortunately the USFL is losing. I've reached out to him to see if he'd like to come onto this show, so maybe we won't be losing him for the whole year, but we'll see what happens there. But to make up for his departure, we were able to go out and sign a offensive guard by the name of Dallas Warmack, who is by way of Oregon University. There's another West Coast thing for you, dude. He did start his college career at Alabama, so another big school guy. And he is the brother of Chase Warmack, who was a former first-round draft pick in the NFL. He will not be playing this week. He is on the inactive roster. But guys that are on the active roster, let's get into this real quick. We are getting Derek Willis back this week. We are getting B.J. Emmons back this week. We are getting starting safety Antonio Reed, the big hitter. We are getting him back this week. We are getting Anthony Butler also added to the active roster. And unfortunately, we are losing Christian Campbell to the inactive roster, and Austrian Robinson on the line is on the inactive roster. Along with Stephen Griffin is still there, and Hassis Dubois is also still there. But the big names really, Antonio Reed is back, B.J. Emmons is back, Derek Willis is back. Let's go. What are the big things you're looking for out of those guys this week?
Out of those guys, goodness, couldn't talk there for a second. Out of those guys, I'm just expecting them to come in and make a difference again. Antonio Reed, when he's in, is insane, and as long as he can stop teabagging opponents, we're good. And then I'm also very excited to see Butler play finally.
Yeah. I mean, we're adding a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense. Let's go. Let's just get into the preview now. The Philadelphia Stars are our next opponent. You and I, Mr. Blaine, we have had the Philadelphia Stars ranked as high as number 4 going into last week.
Yeah.
I think that there might be some changes on that. We will get into our power rankings, but we have had them so high. They are 2-3 on the year, and they take on your 3-2 Bandits Saturday. As you're listening to this, 1 p.m. on NBC and Peacock. Your Tampa Bay Bandits are a 3-point favorite, and they are coached by Bart Andrews, who is, Bart Andrews is a spring league, minor league stalwart. He has done so much to be in service of football as a game. He is a NFL Europe champion as a head coach. He has coached for the Canadian Football League. He was a coach in the XFL for their Team 9. They're kind of like extra team that teams would pull from. He was in charge of teaching and keeping those guys in shape for the league. He was in the Spring League as a head coach, which the Spring League eventually was like the predecessor to the United States Football League. He also spent some time in Tennessee in the NFL as a quarterbacks coach and an offensive coach, known specifically for that skill set, for being a quarterbacks like whisperer. The Bart Andrews has been around some of the greatest light 'em up air attacks in college and the professional ranks. So before we get into kind of how they're going, what were your big things that you're thinking about before we get on the granular level of the Philadelphia Stars?
The one of the main things for me is their strength of schedule.
Okay.
Again, not to get in too deep, but their 3 losses were to the 3 best teams in the league. So
agreed,
it's the wins. They've won the games they should have won, and they've played, in my opinion, one of the tougher schedules so far. So that's why, to me, they were ranked as high as 4. They're probably the best team with a losing record in the league right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Look, they lost to New Orleans, and of course, they lost 23-17. We lost 34-3. They beat the Pittsburgh Maulers, which LOL, but they only beat them by, it was 30-23 was the score of that game. Okay, we beat Pittsburgh 17-3. They lost to New Jersey 24-16. The only big difference in our schedules is we actually played a lot of the same teams. We've played Houston, and we beat Houston by 1 point, 27-26. But then they beat Michigan by 1 point, and we, of course, just beat Michigan by 7 points. And then they last week played the Birmingham Stallions, who are the number 1 team in the league, and they lost 30-17. We only lost Birmingham by 6 points, so I'm going to break out the top hat and the cane because we are obviously better. We are in a different class than the Philadelphia. No. I'm joking.
I think we're in the same class. We just have a higher GPA right now.
It is very, very, very close. Let's be honest with this. This is a very tough matchup. This is a very evenly matched Philadelphia Stars matchup. And that's why, us being a 3-point favorite, I'm okay with that. But we'll get into that a little bit more. Let's talk about their offense. They did score 17 points in the first half against Birmingham, and that's a pretty damn impressive feat, okay? However, Birmingham then figured it out, and this Philadelphia Stars offense laid a big old fat goose egg the rest of the game. They like to run a spread-out offense, which does not surprise you if you're familiar with Bart Andrews. They go 5 wide with no backs. They go double bunch wide receivers in a 1-back set. They throw a ton of crossing routes. They love to keep short options open very quickly, but they also look to throw deep occasionally. And especially last week, they had 2 different receivers with 30-plus yard catches last week against Birmingham, which is no defense. I mean, they give up a little bit of points, but to be honest with you, 30-yard bombs is not what Birmingham is giving up. So their quarterback is Case Cookus. Zach, what do you know about Case Cookus, who is filled in as their number 1 quarterback, is down with an injury?
What do I know about Case Cookus?
Yeah,
Nothing.
what do you like?
Um,
Okay.
his QBR is 126.7 over the 2 games that he started.
Sure.
It's obviously a very small sample size. He's completing 63.5% of his passes.
That's pretty
Uh,
good.
yeah, it's not bad. He's got 3 touchdowns to 1 interception, which is a good ratio.
Yeah.
And he's only been sacked 5 times. So, granted, again, he's played in 4 games, but he started 2. So keep in mind, like I'm just counting those stats as, even though it's probably not completely accurate, I'm counting those stats as the last 2 games that he started.
Right.
So
That's good.
to me, I mean, he's going to be a good quarterback. I'm glad we're not facing Scott. I think he's the better quarterback with a 140.4 QBR over the season so far. He does look like a douche, but I'll let that slide, I guess. But yeah, as far as Cookus goes, love the name. That's probably my favorite thing.
Oh man, it's an all timer here in the USFL. The thing about Case Cookus is, well, the thing about Smith, I should say first, is this was kind of the cheat code. Smith had actually played for Andrews before, so it was like, oh, you guys are
Scott?
getting the guy. Yeah, Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
No, you are. Thanks for keeping me on track. So he and Andrews had played together. Oh, they were gonna have this like cheat code, and it was working. It was actually. I mean, of course, Birmingham has been the number 1 team the entire way and length of the league here. But then he unfortunately goes down, and he will still be out. He will be out in this game. So it is Case Cookus. What I have seen through the 2 games of Mr. Cookus is Mr. Cookus holds the ball a little bit too long. He throws into coverage and he panics under pressure. And I am just like salivating. If I'm Christian Sam, if I'm Greg Reeves, oh yeah, buddy. I am like, oh, here we go. Because that's what we do. We create pressure. We create havoc. We create you to throw into bad things. It just depends on our coverage. So I'm all about that. Now they do, as an offensive scheme with Case Cookus, look, Andrews is not an idiot. He knows what he's got behind there. So they've switched up their offensive game plan to throw a lot of those short options very quickly. They do a ton of these like crossing pick routes, right, to open up the short field so that Cookus, if he's in trouble, he has a check down. He has maybe a first option to a sideline. He has these little things. Now, in the game against Birmingham, he didn't throw an interception. However, he threw so many balls into double coverage that I'm like, oh, please let me know that our defense has turned on this turnover switch, that we're going to start getting interceptions, and if you try to throw into these lanes, we're going to create havoc and do that. So they have a couple other guys that I want to talk about. They're on the offensive line. Blake Camper is a big reason that they've been able to keep Case Cookus upright. He hasn't been sacked a lot, but that's because Blake Camper is a 6'8", 310-pound tackle that just eats up defenders. He's been really, really, really good this year. A standout for sure, and a guy that, again, we were talking about offensive line being a priority in the NFL. This is a dude that I think has made a name through 5 games, that he's going to get a shot. Someone's gonna take a look at Blake Camper. They also have tight end Bug Howard, who going into this, he was one of the bigger names that have been drafted into the USFL, just because he's got huge size. And against linebackers, he is a speed matchup that is at a disadvantage for linebackers. So, again, can they score? This offense can score a bunch of points. Do I think they're going to do that against us? I mean, you're looking at a team that probably averages about 21.5 points a game. So, if our defense cannot control them, yeah, it could get out of hand. But we'll see what that gets into. But was there anybody on their defense that you wanted to shout out as we look at the Philadelphia Stars?
So their big guy on defense who is not even going to really be playing, which is nice. But Channing Stribling is, you had mentioned before the show that he is the number 1 rated cover corner in the league. He does have 4 interceptions, which I believe also leads the league.
Yep.
So before learning that he was out doing my notes for this show, that was someone that I was terrified of.
Yeah.
But
It's a big loss.
after him, as far as like their defensive backs go, I think they have three other guys with one interception. So um, they force turnovers, mostly Stribling though. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not stressing turnovers. I will say their big name on the offense to me right now is Josh Banderas.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, feels like
Linebacker.
linebacker. He's one of those guys that I feel like is almost a Christian Sam, not as good, but
Mm.
is kind of like a Christian Sam where he's everywhere. He has 2 sacks, no
Mm.
interceptions or anything, but he does his job as a run stopper for sure.
Yeah, Josh Banderas is a machine. He racks up sacks, he racks up tackles for loss, and he's always involved in the run attack. He's a monster. He's a dude that I would love, and I think you specifically would love to have on this team.
100%.
Yeah, boy, like Josh Banderas. We are the Josh Banderas fan club over here for 1 week, but however, when I look at that, and Josh, I think embodies what they're trying to do on defense, which is a ton of blitzing. They do a lot of pressure. They do a lot of especially out of that slot. They have a safety named Evan Worthington.
Great name.
And Evan Worthington, man, this dude, he lines up in the slot as a safety, and he will get into the backfield. Like it's phenomenal. And so the thing is that when I look at our offense, if we're only running a Jawan Washington in the backfield, Evan Worthington is bigger than Jawan Washington, so he can, and he's quick, so he can get around. If a running back, if it's B.J. Emmons, if it's Jawan Washington, if they're not able to block on that right side, there's going to be some pressure, and it's going to force Jordan Ta'amu to either get out of the pocket or make a bad throw or do some things. So that's definitely something to look at. However, my big weakness that I see in this defense is they have a lot of trouble against the run. Let's look at that. Birmingham's C.J. Maribel, he went nuclear last week against this Philadelphia defense. 23 attempts, win 1 touchdown on 114 yards, including and his longest run was 29 yards. So that's a chunk, but it ain't all of it. Okay, it's not 30 yards and out of 48 yards. This 29 out of 114. Keep in mind, Zach, this is the same running back that our Tampa Bay Bandits defense kept to 55 yards. And this dude just went nuclear and went double that, okay? So if we can get the run game established, this is definitely a game that they need to do it against because the opportunity is there. And they might want to try to key in on the run first and foremost. That opens up the passing attack for the Bandits. But, if there was a game that this running core could get with Emmons coming back, with Jawan Washington heating up, and with the specific problems that I see in Philadelphia, I think this is the game the running backs can do some damage. What say you, Mr. Blaine?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. If we're gonna have a breakout game for our running backs, it's gonna be this week. I'm not sold on it yet, but I think that it's a possibility. So I'm gonna give it a 70-30 chance that the running backs break out this week.
All right. Well, you've given us percentages. Let's give points. What's your score prediction, Mr. Blaine, Zach Blaine? What is your score prediction for the Philadelphia Stars and their horrible mascot versus your Tampa Bay Bandits?
Okay, so this week the Philadelphia Hardies, Philadelphia Stars,
The Blobs, yeah.
yeah, the Carl's Juniors. They are going to. It's going to be a win by Tampa, and
Ooh.
it is going to be. We're going to break 20 points for the third time this season.
Ooh,
It's going to be 28-17.
man, I'm so happy that we don't talk about this beforehand because my prediction is 24-17. 24-17 dub for the Bandits. Yeah, look, we're a 3-point favorite, but it is very close. However, like, if they turn this corner that I think they did, if they do all the things that I've seen Birmingham open up the can opener and just do things against this defense, it's like, I think we're going to win, and I think it won't be a 10-point victory, but I definitely think that we can win by 1 touchdown. So, and to say that, like, what are your keys to victory? How do we end up with a 28-18 victory from you, Mr. Blaine?
28-17. Don't overquote me.
Oh, sorry.
Don't give
17.
them too much
I
credit.
apologize. Let me take that 1 point away from him. That's a kicker point.
Exactly.
So there you
we
go.
don't want that.
So there you go. How do we get an 11-point victory against Philadelphia?
So remember how I said 70-30 the run game breaks out?
Yeah.
A lot of it's going to depend on that. I think JF3 is going to have to continue to build off of his breakout game, because I do think last week was his breakout game by far. So I think he needs to build off of this. Our offensive line needs to continue, play just as good as we did last week, but better. We need to have in order for us to win, either Washington or Emmons has to have a touchdown and 60+ yards.
I love it, man. I was thinking, like, look, Tomu has to make good decisions and be patient in the face of this onslaught that Philadelphia is about to bring. The offensive line has to keep the quarterback clean again for one more week. They did it last week. Can they do it again? And, of course, they have to establish the run game. We have to use the aggressiveness of Philadelphia's defense against them. We have to be able to open up the counter. We have to be able to open up, like, ooh, can you just see it now, Mr. Blaine? Juwan Washington on a counter play makes one cut, one juke. They're all blitzing on one side, and Juwan just goes, whoop, right out the side, and now he's on the sideline with green pasture all the way to a Bandits touchdown, baby. Does anything get you more excited than
Talk
that,
dirty to me, Eureka. Let's go.
Well, here we go. Now I'm talking on the defense. This is a prime opportunity for this front seven to create havoc on the front, as they always do. Destroy their running attack. Keep them. It is a strong suit that this team has. Keep that thing going. And you have Case Cookus, who we can absolutely put that pressure on him, make him leave the pocket, make him throw bad balls, make him have to go away from his first quick little option, make him think on the run he is going to throw into bad coverage, baby, at least once or twice. And if we can capitalize on those mistakes, that is how I see us as a 24-17 victory. Real quick, let's go through power rankings. Who do you have at the very... We'll go top to bottom. Who's your number one team?
We're going to switch it up. Number 1 in the league, Birmingham.
Yeah. Birmingham, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. Who's number 2?
Number 2, I've got New Jersey.
I have New Jersey also going up because of New Orleans
because
having
of
a loss.
Yep.
I have them dropping to 3.
Yep, I am right there with you, sir.
All right, now here's the debate. Who's number 4 for you, sir?
Our one and only Tampa Bay Bandits.
I also have us at number 4. That means I have Philadelphia at number 5.
Yep, agreed, 100%.
Okay, now here's the real debate.
God.
All right, now the bottom
God.
3. The bottom 3. The Pittsburgh Maulers have a win. Okay, no. At number 6, I have Houston.
I also have Houston at 6.
Okay, I have Michigan at 7, regardless of their loss.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the Pittsburgh Maulers, even though they won, I have them 1-4 still in the toilet.
I would also like to point out that Pittsburgh signed that quarterback.
Dude,
if I'm not mistaken, wasn't playing football a week ago and had to come in and get them their win.
5 days. Pittsburgh, look, that's a feat. Let's go. Okay.
I agree. Congratulations to him. I don't remember his name, but congratulations to him.
Yeah, man, I got to look that up. But what I'm saying is, unfortunately, they're still in the bottom of the rankings. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay, 100%.
I was thinking maybe there'd be a debate. Maybe we could put Michigan up and Houston down, because Houston, and look, as much as Houston has lost games by 1 point, I mean, I'm like, they're still losses, bro. Like you're still losing. Like, you just can't pull it out. But Houston keeps dropping down the rankings, even
Yep.
though I'm like, they're okay, but they keep losing. And in Michigan, unfortunately, we both had them at 7. So Birmingham, New Jersey, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, Houston, Michigan, Pittsburgh. So
Vad Lee is his name.
Oh hell yeah! Let's go, Lee. Let's go.
And it's a cool name. I got to give him credit, man, for not
man.
playing football 5 days ago to bringing your team to the first win of their ever. That's impressive and good on him, but they still suck.
Well, and that brings up what kind of I want to talk about for the last minute or so as we wrap up here is that we have Tampa Bay at 4, we have Philadelphia at 5, very evenly matched matchup that I believe we can win. I believe we are the better team, and I believe we can pull this out. And if we're able to pull this out, that begins with only 5 weeks now, but only 4 weeks after this game until we have the playoffs. Only 2 teams get to go out of our conference or division or whatever you want to call it. But this is the start of the playoff push where we're either going to continue to have these question marks or we're going to put bows on all this stuff and get ready for a playoff push. What are your kind of overall thoughts now that we're halfway through the season and now it's officially the playoff push?
Yeah, I mean, overall thoughts, we're not as good as I thought we were going to be at this point. And this just being completely blunt and honest. We are not as good as I thought we were going to be at the halfway mark. I figured we'd be 4-1, 5-0. So that is kind of a disappointment. On the positive side, I think that our defense, our front 7 is as advertised, just as good as we thought they were. What we expected from them, they're giving us. Our offense, again, I don't think that as much as I love Teamu, I don't think that he is the quarterback we were expecting yet. So I'm kind of expecting him for the playoff push to step it up and be that guy, because right now he's not looking like that guy. But overall, we have a winning record. We are in the top half of the 8 teams, so I can't be mad about it.
Yeah, it's like I wish we were up there with Birmingham and New Jersey. I do think there is a gap between New Orleans, New Jersey, Birmingham, and where we are at number 4. There's a pretty big gap there. But I want to be the optimist. I want to say that like they've shown little glimpses. They've shown little things that like they can do it, and now consistency is my key. So that's why I'm like this is the first equal matchup that we can really see, like, are we as good as that? Or are we with Houston, right? Like, because I think there's also a gap between us, Philadelphia, and Houston at number 6. So where are we? Are we pretenders for the top 4, or are we down with the Houstons and Michigans of the world, right?
Yeah, it's almost like are we the worst of the good teams or the best of the worst teams?
Exactly. And we can put all of that to rest this week. Listeners, you have made it this far. Thank you so much. I ask you for one more thing. We are on social media at RBLR Bandits as part of the RBLR Sports Network. Follow us on all major platforms. We are on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, but you can also find us wherever you listen, wherever you're hearing this, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify or iHeartRadio app, wherever you are listening. There's a little like button. There's a little subscribe button. Hit that bad boy so that you can get this content each and every week as we detail your Bandits in the United States Football League. So, for Zach Blaine, my name is Eureka Wheeler. We are proud to bring you all this coverage from RBLR Sports. And once and again, let's go. Let's get another dub and let's ride.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.